Welcome. We're here for On the Wings of Hope, Shout 2. We're here on the beautiful the big island of Hawaii in Kona in the Shambra Pavilion and ready for more. Adamus is ready to start channeling this second shout of the series. I hope you're ready. And if that's true, let's go ahead and get comfortable. Just really find a comfortable place for you, whether it's sitting, lying down, whatever's good. And with that, let's start with that conscious breath of life. Take that good deep breath, breathing into you, feeling the energy, feeling the air. Let it flow. Take that good deep breath. Feel into the master that you are, with all that you are. Each breath, breathe with it. Flow. Take that breath of allowing, such an important facet in our lives. Take that good, deep breath and allow. Breathe, feeling, as always, into the highest potentials for you. Be with that good deep breath. Breathing in Adamus. He's here, as always, for each of us. Breathe him in. Stay with that good deep breath as we go forward.
I am that I am, Adamus of sovereign domain. Welcome to your Shambra. Welcome to the Shambra Pavilion here in Kona, Hawaii. Welcome to each and every one of yous in your homes, where I'm right with you as well. We're joining together with Shambra from all around the world, bringing our energies, our light together for this once a month festival that we have here. Interesting music for the opening, and I have to admit that I directed Cauldre to it. I kind of helped pick it. Normally it's not my favorite type of music, loud and really call it rock and roll or whatever, but I felt that it was so relevant to what we're doing here. You know, you may have noticed, but there's things we've been doing for a number of years, and suddenly it gets into mass consciousness and it's picked up into things like a song or a movie or a story or the news, because we're putting it out there. And in this case of this song in particular, the lyrics almost like written by Shambra. The intensity of the song, of the message, almost what's in your hearts right now, the passion for it. So yes, I wanted in particular to play this, but also the theme of the raven. The raven. We're going to be talking about that throughout our shout today, but the raven. But right now, I'd just like to welcome each and every one of you. You made it. You got this far. Here we are. And there is so much going on right now. You probably felt it, but so much going on all over the world. We're coming up to a point, as Cauldre and Linda mentioned in their opening session. We have the elections in the United States. And it's more than just an election. It's really a direction than anything. Where's the planet going? Not just because of the U.S. elections, but where are things going? And as everybody knows, it's right now so polarized, and people getting into their beliefs and not listening, only to what they want to hear, not listening to everything. And while this could be a point of revelation in a way, a point of potential chaos on the planet, it's all part of really a growth of the planet. And I want you to be very, very clear about that with each and every one of you, no matter what happens in the ensuing weeks. It's such an epic point on the planet. Stand behind that short wall that Cauldre and Linda talked about. Don't get caught in all the grief and the misery of what's going on. Stand behind that short wall and more than ever, shine your light. We recently did the Dreamwalker Death workshop one week ago, the update on Dreamwalker Death, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. There was so much energy. I mean, not just from the subject of death, but from the whole concept of death on the planet. I mentioned in Dreamwalker Death that Gaia is dying right now. Gaia is dying. As she's departing the planet, her energies are dying. You might have noticed it. In your day-to-day activities, you might have noticed it in the news, but Gaia is dying. Humanity, I said, is dying. And not just, the fact that everybody sooner or later dies, but humanity, as you have known it, is dying right now. Literally, everything is dying. And that was a big part of our update on Dreamwalker Death. Everything is dying. And that's not a bad thing. I know some of you are panicked and wondering why you even tuned in today. It's not meant to be a dreadful, dark message at all. As a matter of fact, once you transcend really your own fears and transcend the old concepts of death, you realize the beauty in it. We're going through a revelation right now. We're going through so many changes. Your body is dying, not just because you're getting a little older every day, but the whole concept of being in biology, the whole concept of what biology is dying. To be replaced, to be rejuvenated, to be rebirthed in a way with whatever comes next for the new human species. Everything is dying right now, and this is very appropriate too that we're talking about this. 2 days after Halloween, 1 day after the Day of the Dead. This is kind of the post-Halloweeny type of message that we have here today. But everything is dying, and I ask you to feel the blessing and the joy in that. Death was one of those things that was kind of woven into the Adam Cadman template. It wasn't like literally, as you know, death now wasn't saying you're going to live to be 80 years, 90 years old and then die. But the whole concept of revelation, of rejuvenation, of going into something and then emerging out of it wiser, more filled with joy, more knowing of your own essence, that was woven right in. There was always the concern that you could become so infused into whatever you were going into in your first incarnation, so infused in it that you maybe couldn't get out. And that's why this whole concept of death was brought forward. And right now, more than ever, the planet is dying. Humanity is dying. Gaia is dying. And these are all appropriate. It's time for this. Things were really stuck for a long, long time on the planet. I mean, your biology was stuck in its evolutionary form rather than its infusion form or what some would call intervention, but it's really more infusion. The biology just continued on and on ever since the times of Atlantis. Hasn't changed much. The human mind hasn't changed much at all. It's got more neurons right now than ever before, but that's actually in a way it's a curse because there's more complexity. Everything around you, including you, is dying. And what I loved about Dreamwalker Death was that we could address it. We could look death straight in the eye and laugh and celebrate and hug it, embrace it. It's not a bad thing at all. It's the next step, and yes, there's the whole process of the death, going through the grieving and the sorrow, remorse, feeling down, maybe even maudlin, but there's such a beauty in it. It's the and. It's the true and. It's the ultimate and, dear Linda Visa. It's the ultimate and that you have death, but the and is it's a time for revelation, for rejuvenation, You were at the Dreamwalker Death class, of course. What did you feel about it?
It is so beautiful because it absolutely opens up the beauty of the potentials and
Yeah.
way beyond what we think of as death.
Yeah.
Way beyond.
And death is truly the biggest fear that humans have. Yeah, they got a whole assortment of other fears, a lot of them, but death is the ultimate fear, the fear of the unknown. It's kind of, in a way, a very beautiful, almost theatrical setup, not knowing what happens after death. There's a lot of concepts about it, and religions have talked about it and said things, and people have near-death experiences and say, well, it's kind of like this, but there's really very little true information about it, and that's such a blessing because you don't know what's going to happen next. You don't know the beauty that you're going to enter into. It's not just thinking that you're going to continue the way you are now. It's truly a transformation, and a beautiful one at that. And if we can help to shine our light on the planet regarding death, help to overcome the fear of going into the unknown, and for many it will still be very, very unknown, but to go beyond that basic primary fear of humans, imagine what that will do to mass consciousness. Imagine the impact it'll have. Right now I ask you to feel into, without holding back, without fear, everything is dying right now. The trees, the birds, the people that you see on the street, certainly Gaia. And feel into that remarkable beauty that's taking place. Now there's people who really fear it because they fear either they go out of existence, or that worse yet, they're judged and sent to one place or the other for eternity, or worse yet is purgatory. It's easier to get out of hell than to get out of purgatory. But feel into that for a moment, the beauty of what is actually happening on this great planet. And in that is the revival, the new. I said a number of years ago, everything is going new right now, as it also is dying away. Everything on the planet, biology, nature, education, the thing that people would call intellect, it's all slowly dying. Some of it is in a very elegant state of decay. Others, rather putrid way of going. Others, very graceful way of going. But it's all dying away. And if you can really feel into the beauty of that, it's not termination, it's not elimination, it's transformation. And if you can feel into that, first of all, your life gets a whole lot easier. Secondly, you see the end of death, the beauty that it beholds. And then you realize for yourself, there's really actually nothing to fear, not at all. So yes, everything on this planet is dying. In a good way. And that's, again, why the light that you and others bring in is so important right now, because it facilitates that. It helps to bring more grace to the death process. And it then allows the energies to truly serve like they never have before. Right now, you could, to oversimplify, right now you could say, energies serve you. They do that for everybody individually. They serve you. And to understand that the energies in the past have been serving you towards death, because that's what you have from the moment of birth. You're on your way to death then. So they're serving that. Yes, they give you experience, they give you stories, they give you joy and all the rest of these things, but the ultimate energies that people use, the way they use them, is to their death. And imagine now if that whole concept is changed And it's really, truly a revelation. It's truly a transformation. And there's nothing to fear. Imagine the impact of that on how it serves you, your energy. I've been talking a lot in Kihak in particular, pushing it a lot with the Kihakers, saying, can you allow your energy to serve you, ... as a master? One way or the other, the energies are serving you. They absolutely are. You are getting exactly what you are creating. No doubt about it. Nobody else is doing it to you. Your energies are literally responding to not just the thoughts in your brain, because those actually aren't very strong, but to your beliefs, to your heart, to your emotions, to your consciousness, to your spirit. The energies are always, always responding literally. Never a mistake, never not quite serving you or over-serving you. They're always serving you. But the question I have for all of you is, can you allow your energies to serve you ... as a master? The obvious answer to that is, of course, but then why aren't you? Or why are you somewhat holding back? Why are you one day being that master and the next day not? Well, it's because you're still not sure. You still have fears. You still hold back on things, partly because of death programming, partly because, feeling that there might be death of your character, of your story. And so you allow energies to serve you, but not necessarily as a master. So I ask you to take a deep breath right now, and all of you Kihakers are very familiar with this, but ask yourself, are you allowing energies to serve you as a master? Of course, it begs the definition, what is a master? But you already know that in your heart. You already know what a master is. Ultimately, a master is about choice and wisdom. What do you want, and how do you integrate the wisdom into what you want? You're not a kind of immature human anymore where, all you want is money or sex or whatever. You've matured, and what do you really want? What's really important to you? Then the energies will serve you as a master. And most of you recognize, no, it's not about money, and it's not about fame, or definitely not about power. What serves your heart and what serves your soul? What do you really choose? And then the energies will follow that. But until then, most humans, the energy is serving them to their death. I mean, they're drawn to it and attracted to that, and that's one of the overriding factors in their decisions and the setups in their life. Energy is serving to the death. So, not to dwell too much on death, but that's kind of one of the subjects for the day, to ask you to recognize the sheer beauty in death. And that will help you walk beyond the fear. That will help you reorient your energies to living. You see, because once you understand death, once you embrace death, once you breathe it in, now you can truly live, because energies will serve you in a different way. So I'm going to ask for an image to be put up on your screens. This is an image of a raven, kind of our theme for today. And by the way, we played the intro song, and there was several themes in it. One, the raven, and revelation. Now, for those of you tuning in later that don't have access to that, I'm going to ask that the link be put right here in the transcript, or somewhere here, an overlay on, is that what you call it? A subtitle caption, Calder says, right here on the screen, so you can see that, so you can go back to that song to see what we're talking about if you weren't listening in live. But here we have the image of the raven. Feel into that for a moment. The image of the raven. I ask you to just really feel it. What feelings does that bring up when you're looking at the raven? Does it bring up fear? Perhaps grief? For so many, the raven is a symbol of death, darkness, impending doom. The image of the raven can bring up anxiety, fear, trepidation. For the most part, people associate this image of the raven as a rather negative thing, not so good. Not so good. They don't necessarily like looking at it or thinking about it, although it's a beautiful bird. It's a truly magnificent bird. And it makes us take a look now at Edgar Allan Poe, American poet, writer, critic, born and raised in the Boston area, early 1800s, writer of the great poem, The Raven. I suggest all of you read it if you haven't had a chance. The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Poe had a very interesting life. I loved his works. But what an interesting life he had. He lost a loved one, his wife, early on. And that brought him to great despair. He was a very, very, very talented human. His writing was, for the most part, superb. He had such inner clarity, and he had such a connection into the other realms. But this death that occurred in his life was a tragedy. What happened was a result is he started drinking heavily. He became an alcoholic. Did a lot of cocaine. He used alcohol and cocaine to drive him to the depths of his despair. What I'm saying here is it wasn't like he was an addict. It wasn't like he was weak and didn't know any better, couldn't overcome these things. Because that's generally not the case. You know, if you're an alcoholic, you know, the common wisdom is that you don't know how to control yourself, or now they're saying, well, it's a disease, that you're weak. People will tell you that you become addicted to something that's bigger than you, that you've got this big alcoholic aspect. Well, the truth is that most all the time when somebody uses something like alcohol or even sexual distortions or drugs or things like that, they're using it as a fuel to drive them deeper and deeper into their despair. Now, it's not like the human wakes up in the morning and says, I want to go into despair. Not like the human says, you know, I want to experience how bad things are. But there's something in the background that's doing that. You can call it whatever you want. It's you could say it's beliefs. It's kind of like what they're attracted to. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it. They wouldn't be doing it. You can say, well, maybe their families drove them to this, or their lover drove them to it, or conditions of poverty or disease or whatever. But they're literally using these things, these drugs and alcohol, to drive them, to fuel them into their greater despair. At some level within them, and not on a conscious human level, but at some level, they want to see how dark the darkness is. They want to see how far the bottom is. Now, I'm not recommending this at all. Why, Caldry asked me, I'm not recommending it because you've all done that before. You don't need to do it again. You find out how dark the darkness is. You don't need to keep going back there and finding out. You find it's pretty damn dark, and it's not really ultimately what the human or the soul wants. But back to Edgar Allan Poe, brilliant man, and started heavily into the alcohol and heavily into the cocaine, and only lived to be 40 years old, surprisingly. I mean, not surprising to me, but most people don't realize he died at such a young age with tremendous mystery surrounding his death. Was it the alcohol? Was it something sinister? Were those many out to get him for something? There's a lot of conspiracy theories and other such things, but the bottom line is he was just ready to go. He had led a very, very intense, fascinating life, again with great works. But his greatest work, the thing he's truly known for, is The Raven. The Raven. Now, in the story, which is really his story, in the story, here's a man who has something happen in his life to bring him into, well, darkness, grief, and despair. And in that, he thinks he's going to avoid the grief. He's going to try to avoid it. He does everything he can to not face his own feelings. And there's an excellent example here. You're going to have feelings. You have had feelings. You, as a master, can go into those feelings, as hard as they are, as challenging as they are, as ugly as they might be, but you, as a master, can now go into those feelings. It's not about saying all bad things go away. Not at all. It's not about saying every day is going to be popsicles and sweet candies and cookies and everything else. It's not that way. Not the way of the master. But the master can take things, their own life, tragedies that come along, and embrace them, go into them without fear, and find something that they never found before. You've gone into the depths of darkness at times, this lifetime, other lifetimes, gone deep into it. But most of the time, you did not emerge from that with the full wisdom, the real pearls, the real gems of that particular experience. You learned things. You opened your own consciousness in a lot of ways, but so often you didn't really gather the true deep wisdom. That'll happen later. It could happen now, but it'll happen later as really you go through your, you open up the akasha and let all of your experiences and stories be turned into wisdom. But here's a situation in The Raven, where the man experiences something different and tries to run from it or ignore it and hide from it. And then suddenly the raven shows up. The raven, such a symbol. At first, what we call the narrator, the speaker in the story, which again is never identified, no name ever given to the speaker, to the narrator, which I think is really effective writing, because it allows you then to put yourself in that place instead of naming him Bob or Mary or something like that. It's a no name. It's the narrator. And here the narrator tries to make light of the raven that's now showing up on a regular basis. Like, well, it's not going to scare me, no bird showing up in my dreams or suddenly starts popping into reality is going to do anything to me. He scoffs at it. But the more he scoffs at it, the more it becomes real. The more he tries to ignore it, the more present it is. And pretty soon, the raven is there, nearly all the time. And again, just think of what your thoughts were about the raven that was showing. Let's show that again. The raven. And this is what was showing up to Poe. Or in the story, of course, to the speaker. It's a beautiful bird in many aspects, but it's ominous. It can be terrifying to some. It can tear it with its claws and with its beaks. It can tear anything apart. So this kept on showing up every day, and pretty soon it started to drive the narrator crazy. And why does this bird keep showing up? I mean, it was like kind of trivial at first, but now this bird is always there. What is the meaning? What's the message? Why is it there? Is this me? Is it something from the other worlds? I began to get frightened of it, an otherworldly. And at one point, he started talking to the raven, started asking questions. What are you doing here? Where did you come from? Why are you suddenly in my life all the time and in my dreams? And the raven replied with one word: nevermore. Nevermore. At first, the narrator thought, well, this raven doesn't have a big vocabulary, but then he started to feel deeper into the words from the raven: nevermore. Nevermore. And that's all the raven ever said. In this whole dialogue that the narrator would have with the raven, as the narrator got deeper and deeper into darkness, that's all the raven ever said: nevermore. No other words. Nothing else said, just nevermore. And this drove the narrator crazy, drove it crazy. And the more the bird said nevermore, the more the narrator got infuriated. Tell me more. You've got to be here for some reason. What's going on? The bird simply, nevermore. What is the meaning of that? Well, what is the meaning of nevermore? Nevermore what? Is this means that nevermore I'm going to die? Nevermore I'll never love again like I did? Nevermore I'll never be whole? Nevermore what? What? Could you imagine if this was you? And you're asking questions, as you do every night. You're asking questions to me, or sometimes Cthulhu, and our only answer is nevermore. It'd drive you crazy after a while. And it did in the poem, The Raven. It drove him crazy. Now, I want to pause here for a moment and reflect. Let's put the graphic of the raven back up. It's kind of interesting, nevermore and no more. No more. We've been saying that for a long time here with Shambra. No more. I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. No more people abusing me. No more of me working myself to the bone for everybody else. No more of this search for some type of enlightenment. No more abuse. No more lifetimes. No more ETs interfering with the ways of this planet. No more disrespecting myself. No more doubt. No more doubt. No more confusion. So in a way, you're living out the raven in many, many ways. You find ways to go into darkness. And not because you're weak, or not because you're actually, in a way, you're a hero. You're a hero. Finding out what is in that darkness. How low can I go? Now, granted, you've learned that you don't need to keep doing that over and over again. But you did it. And not because you're a fool, because you are truly a pioneer of consciousness. You went as deep as you could go into human emotions. You went as deep as you could go into darkness. And then it comes to a point where you just realize, first of all, there is no death. Even in death, you're not relieved from the pains of your life. You're not. You just come back and do it all over again. Generally in the same family, generally in the same location you lived in the last lifetime. And then it comes to no more, never more. And that's so where we're at right now. Never more. No more. No more of the games. No more of the doubt. No more of the endless wanderings. No more. It was a beautiful poem by Edgar Allen Poe. Beautiful poem. And again, it's been interpreted in many, many different ways. But ultimately, to me, it was about the narrator, the man saying, I'm done with this. I'm going to do it different now. And instead of following the same old patterns, the same old ways, nevermore. We're going to do it different. And I don't know, this is the narrator now in the extended version of the poem that has never been written, but I'm writing. The narrator says, nevermore, I'm going to do different. I don't know what that looks like or what that means, but I know there is more. And I'm going to go into that this time. Instead of going deep into the bowels of darkness, I'm going to go into the light, into the other realms, never more being stuck and trapped in a human body, never more being defined by a very specific personality, never more feeding at the trough of mass consciousness, never more. And that's where Shambhala is. That's why I talk now about death. I talk about the death not as in a terminal thing, not as a negative thing, not as in a ghoulish type of thing, but as in a nevermore thing. Nevermore going back to the very things you got trapped in and stuck in. Nevermore. No need for it. No need for it. Now, in the state of nevermore, we go now into the other realms. We go beyond just biological infusion. In the state of nevermore now, we realize that gravity is not just the thing that pulls things to the earth, but gravity is the thing that will eventually become the very freedom for this planet in terms of energy, free energy, clean energy. Nevermore being locked in the confines of that old gravity. Never more. Or, as we've been saying for a long time, no more. Done with that. Don't need to go back and redo it. And if I could make any big point here today, you do not have to keep going back into the old patterns searching for answers. If you haven't found them by now, they're not in those patterns. Nevermore do you need to keep going back and doing things the same way you've been doing them and hoping for a different outcome. That is truly the definition of crazy. Nevermore. I want you to feel that reverberate in your heart and in your soul. Never more. Just like the raven kept on saying it over and over again to the narrator. Never more. Not settling for less. Not settling for persecution. So many of you have done that or still doing it. Persecution. Never more letting your doubts run your life. Never more. The raven. The raven is something most people fear. They think it's an ominous sign of death or destruction or something like that. It's not. If we could put our friend the raven back up on the screen. The raven is the and it depends on how you want to perceive it, how you want to feel the energies. Yes, the energies of suffering and grief and death and the impending doom, they can be there, and that's okay. They can be there, but the and of it is, in the true symbol of this mighty bird is wisdom. Now feel that. The wisdom of this bird. The ability for what you would say the whispers of prophecy, meaning the understanding of the potentials of your future, the whispers of prophecy from this great bird. the strength of this bird, the strength inherent in it with its mighty beak and claws to tear through the veils that have separated you from the other realms and from yourself and from your soul. This raven can tear right through them. It's a strong bird. It has the energies of leadership. It has the energies, if you really feel into it, of life, not death. It's the and. We talked about that in our last shout. It's the and. This bird can soar to great, great heights. This bird soars, and as we're doing now on the wings of hope in the Shout series, to soar, to take off. So it's not about the ominous nature of the bird, the darkness of the bird. Some people perceive it that way. Many people perceive it that way, partly from conditioning and and poems by Edgar Allen Poe. But just really it's kind of almost a past life connection to these very sacred symbols. And in this case, the raven, at one point many people felt was the forecomer to death. We go into the and we realize the intelligence and the wisdom of this bird, the ability to soar and to fly, the beauty of it, the strength of it, and its nobility. Its nobility. So it's not a negative thing, unless you want it to be. It can take you to the darkness if you want, just as your own energy can. It can take you to the darkness. But imagine for a moment now, we talked about pakawas years and years ago. Remember the pakawas? It's kind of like your totem animal. I think it was one of the very first shouts that we did. And, having this pakawa is very convenient because you choose an animal. And it can be the very thing that goes interdimensional on your behalf. It's kind of leads you into the other corridors of the other dimensions of. It can lead you into the dimensions of death without you dying. It can lead you into the angelic realms. It's kind of like the animal energies that are serving you. Can you imagine for a moment that perhaps your pakawa now is accompanied by the raven? And that raven, with its strength and its wisdom, can also guide you. Can bring you to places you couldn't have ever even imagined. To bring you to greater understandings. The raven is the symbology of it is so filled with wisdom. To bring you to your own wisdom. To be the very thing that guides you as you travel in these other realms. That guides you literally beyond the mind, this raven. Let's take a good deep breath with that. If you choose, let that raven come to you now. Let that raven come into your life to accompany you, to be your, whether it's your new pakawa or to accompany you in the pakawa as you begin to travel into the other realms beyond the mind. In the story, in the poem, The Raven, the narrator was stuck in his own mind and his own emotions. He didn't realize the raven was there to actually help accompany him into the other realms, beyond the mind, not trying to negate sadness from death, not trying to push out darkness, but to soar beyond it. To recognize that it's there, to embrace it, but never to be caught in it, never. And in this case, the raven being able to take you beyond the mind. Where the mind, you as a mindful being, you try to go beyond the mind, usually it's from within the mind, and you say, well, I don't know how to do it from within the mind. That's where the dragon, that too, and the raven enter. And say, we'll take you beyond. I am you. I am that part of you that's the intelligence and the wisdom and the wings that can fly. I'll take you beyond the mind. I'll take you to places that have always been there, but you've gotten so enmeshed in and infused in this very specific spectrum of light that you never went. And when you tried to go, when you tried to open up, it didn't work. And even when you tried things like extreme things, drugs and psychedelic trips and stuff like that, you sometimes get there, but then it's like a rubber band, snapping you right back into place. And that's even harder because once you have gone into into the beyond, into the other realms, and you've seen it, and then you get snapped back into this realm, snapped back into your everyday reality. It's very difficult because then you really know something's out there, but now you're screaming because you're back in prison, and you know there's great lands filled with great beauty out there, but now you can't have them. You got a taste of them, but now you can't have them. It's, in a way, it's almost better to have never tasted that, because now you're in a true hell when you take these drugs or do extreme things to get you into the other realms. You don't need to. You've got the Raven as your personal guide. It's not somebody else's Raven. It's not my Raven. It's yours. Use the energy symbols of it. Use the essence of it to be with you. It's not your spirit guide. It's not anything like that. It's not going to suddenly make you better looking. It's your ability to soar, to fly into the beyond. It's very difficult to do that from within your mind, but now you soar beyond. Let's take a good deep breath with that. We're going to do a Morab in just a moment, a longer Morab. But I want to say a few words first about, as I've repeated many times, begs repeating right here now. This planet of yours, if you haven't figured it out, is changing rapidly. And it's all by design. It's not because of anybody doing anything wrong. It's not about that. It's all part of the revelation that's going on right now. It's all part of the apocalypse that started just a little less than 2 years ago. Everything is changing so fast, and you're not going to be able to make sense of it up here. You can study all you want, you can try to keep up on all the news and everything, but it's going too fast. You've got to be able to go now beyond the mind into an expanded, intuitive state of knowingness and wisdom. Otherwise, what happens is it's going so fast, you get shaken up, you get traumatized by it, and then you try to figure it out and you try to make logic of it. There's no logic in it right now. There's really not. So it's about being able to open up, to soar. The planet is going through upheavals. It's going through its death right now, and it will continue for a while. There could be some, what you think would be dark times ahead for the planet and for humanity, some very dark times, but they're literally about the death and the resurrection, not about negative. People on this planet are good. They truly are. If you go back to the song that we played coming into this session, even there, the lyrics, the good people are rising, and that's what's happening. There's so much goodness in the humans, in humanity itself, and sometimes it's hard to see because they do things. They can be really irritating at the same time. But overall, humanity doesn't want destruction and gloom. Overall, humanity doesn't want suffering. There are still some who are in positions of power that still choose that because it reinforces their power, because it builds their power base. But right now, there is way too much goodness in the hearts of humans that is coming out. And that ultimately is going to make the difference. What's helping to bring it out are things like light and consciousness. It's not because of social programs. It's not because of better programming on TV or better books. None of that. It's because of the light. And the light is saying it's okay to come out. The goodness that's in your heart that's been buried for so long, that makes you feel vulnerable or makes you feel that you're not strong anymore. That light can come out now, and it can rejoice as it comes out. And as that light comes out, it's going to push the dark or the unconsciousness. It's going to push the ones who are into power and into suffering. It's going to push them hard. But they cannot defend themselves ultimately against the light. The light will shine too brightly, and it will shine right on them, right into their darkness, and it will show them their own light and their own goodness. So while the planet may be going in for some difficult times, understand the whole way along that the goodness is also coming out right now. And at some point, enough goodness, enough light from humans all across the planet that will also say, nevermore. We're not going to tolerate the old systems of power and suffering and imbalance. And basically, when humanity gets to that point, enough goodness coming out, and they say, nevermore, go to hell. I mean, go to hell. All of you who are still in your own power and abusive and just playing with the darkness and trying to inflict it on us, go to hell. And that hell is something that happens when this planet has its shift. We talked about it through Jamie and through the future, a shift in what Jamie called the photon belt, the light gathering. And then they go to hell, exactly where they belong. I mean, it's their hell. It's what they want, but it's not necessarily what the rest of humanity wants. That light, that goodness in humans is coming out right now. And it will eventually allow this planet to transcend into that new human species. That's doesn't necessarily even mean it's biological. It's not as heavily mental. It's not into suffering. It finally, the spirit on earth can rejoice. The demons are in hell. And they can get out whenever they want, by the way. I'm not putting them there forever. Until the point in their own hell, in this own place of theirs, in this own kind of a sub-earth environment, they say, nevermore. Let's take a good deep breath with that. We're going to go into the Morab. And I'm going to ask the whole time during the Morab if you would put up our beautiful raven graphic. A reminder of no more, nevermore. A reminder that what some may perceive as the bird of death is actually the bird of life, the bird that soars. Take a good deep breath. There's times I really wished I was there with you on this planet, but then I wouldn't be able to be doing what I'm doing now. But there are times, and I know you kind of scoff when I say that, because you're thinking, yeah, right, come on down. You are living in such epic times right now. Just to be there, to experience this intensity, the changes that are occurring, the light that's coming in. You have to be able to be open to it, otherwise you're just going to see everyday human life. But, what's happening? What's truly happening on this planet is remarkable. You can do anything. You can do anything, and these aren't just glib words. You can do anything once you stop fearing yourself. You can do anything once you stop fearing yourself. It's only that fear of yourself that has ever held you back, really. You can blame it on other things. You can give me all sorts of excuses for not doing this, not doing that, but you know, you can do anything. You can sail off into these other realms and still be human and still be a master on the planet and still encounter darkness and still have good days and bad days. You can do anything when you stop fearing yourself. And that's been the real fear, not death. The real fear has been yourself. What will I do? What will I do something stupid if I have this mighty raven as my Pakawa, my guide into the other realms? What am I going to do with it? Will I get lost? Will I destroy things? Will I fuck up again? Nevermore, nevermore. When you come to the point of no more fear of yourself, I'm not talking about the outer worlds or crime, some dark night while walking home, or somebody taking everything from you, or somebody putting a demonic spell on you. I'm talking about the fear of yourself. And that's the greatest fear of all, who you really are and what you can do. I guess you've given yourself some reasons to have fear because, particularly in past lifetimes, you've done some interesting things with power, with abuse, with darkness. So many of you along the way got into the dark arts. It was very interesting to watch. After the time of Yeshua, you came back for incarnations so often religious-oriented, creators, founders of the religions on the planet. Some of them had already been here, but many, many of them were new. And for the religions that had already been here, you helped to transform those. And it was interesting. So many of you then really took on the dark. A very, very interesting switch from your role as some of you early Christians, Gnostics, and then taking on witchcraft. Becoming warlocks. Going into the dark. Why? A psychologist might say, a New Age psychologist might say, well, you were drawn to it, you were weak. Or you felt shame for some of the things that were being done in the church and you walked away. You walked away from the teachings because they had gotten so, rigid and suffering oriented. So you walked away, and when you walked out of the door of the religions, you walked straight into the door of the darkness, into sorcery, witchcraft. You were fascinated with it, absolutely fascinated with what it could do, and absolutely fearful of it, because you see, in the darkness like that, as a witch or a warlock, in that darkness, there's always the overlord. Always the overlord. Not even like the supposed God from the religious orders. The overlord was much closer, much more aware, much more present. The God of the religions of humanity has always been distant, but the overlord of the darkness always right there, and you're fascinated by the darkness, by the power, all the time fearing the overlord, and all the time promising to be subservient to the overlord of darkness, promising to obey that. Oh, you learned witchcraft, indeed. You learned how to work energies. You came up with mantras or chants or having to make secret potions. Those were all bullshit. That's Makyo. It was a way of distracting you. It was a way of thinking, making you think that you were doing something, and if you followed the rituals properly, the great powers would come to you. You didn't need all that, by the way, but it served a purpose. You do those same incantations right now, and they're not going to work so well. But the point is that you didn't go into the darkness because you were running from the church or overly fascinated with power and darkness. Again, it was simply for the fact that it was there. And to truly understand the light as part of the bringing the Christ consciousness to this planet, in order to really understand it, you would have to experience the dark. You would have to create an overlord. You would have to dive into the dark arts. Not all of you did, but most of you did, in one way or the other. And on one hand, it was absolutely exhilarating. You felt so alive in the darkness, so alive in this place of sorcery, like never before. And it made you almost scoff at those who were on the other side, the side of light, the side of goodness. It almost made you scoff because you had never felt this alive before. But you were also in great fear the whole time, in terror of the overlord of darkness. What would that overlord do to you? What kind of magic did this overlord have? How much obedience did you have to give and pledge to the overlord to stay in favor? You dove in because it was there. And that eventually it would give you such insights and understandings into yourself. Understandings and insights into the true nature of Christ consciousness. You can't look at Christ consciousness just through the light. You had to go in and find out about it through the darkness. And that's what you bring now. That's what you bring here into this lifetime. You emerged from that darkness. Some of you went through what I call the red lion, the red lion effect, the sheer horror and terror, but you emerged out of that nightmare. And here you are now. I never worry about any of you resorting back to the times of witchcraft, because you learned one thing: it comes back on you. It's not karma, it's just energy. You're projecting energy, it then will serve you in that way. So I fear not of any of you ever abusing, well, you might call it power, but it's really just your own energy. You can do anything. You can travel to other realms. You can have new lifetimes in the past. Yes. You may say, well, this is my last lifetime on this planet. Yes, but you can literally create new lifetimes in the past. You can realize your own magnificence, your own light. You can do anything. as long as you're no longer fearing yourself. The fear is truly about, well, what you would have called power. The fear is that you're going to make the same mistakes. The fear is that you're going to hurt others. That's a great big fear, hurting others. You don't want to do that. And the fear, and it has its origins in this time in the witchcraft. The fear is what you're going to discover about yourself. What if you discovered that it is just dark in there? The overlords told you that. They told you that the deeper you go within yourself, the more darkness you will find. And they encouraged that. They encouraged it. Abide by the darkness within. And so to this day, you still carry a fear of yourself, but we've gone beyond all that. We've gone beyond the games of the dark. But some of you, I hear right now saying, well, have we really? Try going back there. Just try going back there. Really. If you still think that you can get caught up in that, if you still think that you are filled with darkness, go in there. Just go in there. I'm serious. If you still think that you have that deep darkness within, just go there. I guess that's not advice you'd think would be coming from a grand ascended master. Oh, but I'm serious about it because I know what you're going to find. I know already. So go there and see what happens. If you still think you carry the residue of the dark, that you can still be attracted or influenced into the dark and back to your times as witches and warlocks, with your chants, with your spells, try going there right now. I also say that because it's one of the things that you still fear about yourself. I still carry that darkness. You can do anything once you go beyond fearing yourself. I want to use this opportunity right here with Shambhala, with you, to say, within yourself there is nothing to fear. Maybe in a past lifetime, maybe that's what some of them are going through right now, and you're perceiving it in your current dream states. Maybe they're going into that, but there is nothing to fear. What's really in there? What's at the depths? What's your consciousness? It's your imagination. It's all of your dreams. It's all of your light that's in there. That's what's in there. Go in. Find out. Go in. Some of you are saying, no, I've been doing that for years. I've been going inside, exploring. No, you haven't. You've been skirting around your own fears of yourself. The fears that you're just a mortal being. And you die and that's it. Your fears that maybe you're a dark, sinister being and you've been a grand, powerful, dark being in the past. When you do some of the inner journeys, they're psychological. So often they're not deep journeys because you've been afraid to go in there. You've been afraid the same way in the poem The Raven, the same way the narrator was afraid of himself, afraid of his own darkness. He was afraid that the raven was an ominous symbol. And therefore he stayed in fears. He lived fears and he died in fear. Go in there and you're going to discover things I can't even put into words here. You're going to discover your true goodness and your godness. You can do anything, and it's not just words. I'm not just saying that, but your fear of yourself has held you back. Not the fear of the outer world, not the fear of some dark overlord, but the fear of yourself. It's time to face that right now. It's time to face yourself. Take a good deep breath and hear the call of the raven. Nevermore. No more fearing of self. Why would I fear my own beingness, my own goodness? Why would I fear my own light and my own I am? Let's take a good deep breath into the anything. Once you go beyond the fear of you, let's take a good deep breath and feeling into the raven, its strength, its great wisdom. And said that the raven hears the prophecies, hears the whisper of the prophecies in itself, and it does. It means that it knows its own way. It's not afraid of its own way, not afraid of ever encountering itself. Nevermore, dear Shambra, nevermore. Nevermore doubt, holding back, suffering. You know the list. You know your nevermore list. Let's take a deep breath together, and now open the wings of your raven and let yourself soar. It'll be interesting times ahead for the planet. But remember, you're not the one causing that chaos or that darkness. You're not the one. So, many of you still take on those attributes. Some of you remember when you were children, you thought the dysfunction in the family was because of you. If you were a good person, this wouldn't be happening. Oh, so many of you were like that. You took on the whole burden. As this planet goes through its changes and revelations, realize that you're not the one causing them. You're the one here now, bringing the potentials of light. Never more to taking on and believing that you're the one causing the darkness and the bad out there. You're not. You're the one bringing in the light. You're the one holding the lantern for all to behold their own goodness. So with that, dear Shambra, let's take a deep breath together. A very good deep breath. Never more. And a very special thanks to Edgar Allan Poe, who has been with us the whole time in this shout. I know a few of you felt that energy, but the whole time I didn't want to pre-announce him as the guest, because then you'd have been focused on him and not me. But thank you, dear Edgar Allan Poe, for the great works that you brought, the great understandings and the great talent. Dear Edgar has not reincarnated ever since. And maybe sometime soon, but he stayed on this side, oftentimes teaching about the raven on the new earths. Nevermore. With that, dear Shambra, dear friends, dear ones I love so much, I am Adamus of sovereign domain. Thank you.
And so it is. Please, with that, just let those energies flow, feeling the beauty of this message, this Morab. So much there. Take that good deep breath. Take that good deep breath. Feeling into this nevermore, so personal for each of us. Breathe with it. Flow with it. Take that good deep breath and breathe as the master with all that you are, always open to the highest potentials of you. Breathe. Take that good deep breath. Feel the air. Feel the energy. Breathe into all that you are. Thank you for being a part of this shout on the wings of hope. Thank you.
Take a straight and stronger course to the corner of your life. Make the White Queen run so fast, she hasn't got time to make you. Cause it's time in time with your time, and his news is captured. It's time in time with your time, and his news is captured. Take a straight and stronger course to the corner of your life. Make the White Queen run so fast, she has